Hello and welcome to your neighborhood show. I'm Carolyn, and the reason I started this podcast is because it actually comes from my own life's journey of growing up in Mumbai, India, in a very strong connected neighborhood where pretty much everyone knew everyone. And then over my 22-year marriage, I inadvertently, here in Australia, I inadvertently got disconnected or isolated rather. And after my marriage breakdown, I was kind of reflecting on my life and wondering, how did I come from that strong community and connectedness, and now when I need support the most, I don't have it. And so I went on this journey of wanting to get myself supported again and build that network of support around me. And in the process of doing that, I realized that there were many others like myself, and it's everywhere. There's disconnection everywhere. And so what the podcast is about drawing out beautiful stories, amazing stories actually, of everyday amazing people from their lives at times when they felt connected as well as disconnected, and to normalize it. But then how do we then move from times when we are disconnected and feel supported again? I've been so lucky to meet some amazing people through this process, and what I've realized is when I'm intentional about getting to know somebody, I can get to know them in 3 to 4 hours, and that's been the biggest blessing for me. Hello and welcome to your neighborhood show. I'm Carolyn, and our guest today is I think, an amazing young gentleman by the name of Luke Dunning. And today I'm going to get him to introduce himself to you because I think he's going to do a better job than I will.
I'll stop.
Yes, you will. But just a quick one, and that is that Luke actually is the man behind helping me get this idea of mine about a podcast on the road and to you. So I'm very, very grateful to him for that. But I'm going to get him to give you a proper introduction to himself.
Hello.
Welcome, Luke.
Thank you. It feels like I've been here a long time. Just sitting behind the curtain, listening in like a creep at the behind the wall. But it's been great. And me personally, to start with Umbrella, we started 14 years ago, web and graphic design company.
So what's Umbrella? Can you tell the audience?
We started it. Well, Caitlin and I started it. The long story why we started it was, I'll go back to that first. I'll say what we are. So we started off as being a graphic design company and web design. And then we grew into video, which was quite prominent around 2016, 17. We got a lot of calling for it. So it was a decision that we made to drop the other services and just really heavily invest into that side of it because we saw the effects of what it was doing for people. But Umbrella Creative started off being, its name was everything under one umbrella. So if we couldn't do it regarding digital, we would find other partners to help clients succeed. Whereas there's a lot of other businesses would take on everything and just say, yeah, we can do it. We'll take your money and then see you later. It didn't work. Oh, well, see ya. Bye. So having our whole honesty and integrity backbone to our business, we wanted to be completely transparent, and that's why we did it. But we ended up dropping those services anyway, and we still do. Like if we've got clients that want to do, like vehicle branding and stuff like that, we still will find partners for them and say, hey, these guys do a really good job. Maybe go and see them.
Yeah.
So we still are pretty heavily involved in that side of it to help businesses succeed from their marketing perspective, but predominantly video's kind of our thing. And we started it because Caitlin fell pregnant with our first son, and I did not think that we could survive. I mean, I was only on $32,000 for 40 hours a week in a digital agency, and that was going back 15 years now. But yeah, I just didn't think that we could survive.
So thanks for sharing that. It's funny how your circumstances force you into getting creative about how you can earn an income, and sometimes you have to do what you got to do, and it turns out that it was your circumstances, even though they seem unfortunate at the time, but they throw you into an area of work that will then kind of work for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was almost drastic. It was like I as a father, being that we already have a child just from my previous marriage, but Hamish was 4.5 when I met Caitlin. So fast forward when we had Liam, it was like, well, there's so much more responsibility.
Yeah.
Caitlin's going to be on maternity leave. I don't know how I'm going to be able to provide on, like, even if I got a raise of like 38,000, it's still, you can't survive on that. So, you know, with Caitlin stopping work, I just thought, well, the most drastic thing to do would be just to throw myself all in, which I'm very good at doing, and then just going 100 miles an hour to start a business. And yeah, lo and behold, I think we drummed up like 6 months worth of work in the first 2 weeks that I took on maternity leave or paternity, what they call it for a father. I just cold called for 2 weeks, and yeah, 6 months worth of work. And I thought, well, I've got 6 months to figure it out, so this is it.
That's amazing. That
And
in
that's
itself
14 years
is
ago.
a great little story there.
So
your primarily your work is doing videos.
now, yeah.
Yeah. And so podcasting, recording podcasts, like what I love is that all I got to do is bring my guest and come over here, and I've got this great already set up studio and these very fancy microphones matching the color of my brand now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And look, I've got pink nail polish too.
It's your signature color.
But yeah, you've made it really easy for me, Luke. So thank you for that. All I do is come here with a guest and have a lovely chat, and then I walk away and you kind of edit and post and do all the rest of it. So podcasting is not as big as the video, is that right? Did I get that right?
Well, it is, but it's like, it's a great way to tell your story, but it used to be the day, like the iPod was made for podcasting by Apple. So I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but Apple invented the podcasting through the iPod. And it was purely audio. But the means of finding podcasts was still very primitive in terms of you had to know about it from some means of marketing, whether it be through word of mouth or from, you know, from ads or whatever else that comes about. But it was still very early and not overly utilized. But fast forward to now, the means of marketing anything is purely through video.
Yes.
So it kind of comes hand in hand.
And I think that's definitely because you see more and more ads where people you can see the face, and that absolutely makes sense because you can't hide when you're on video because people can get you your authenticity or not, you know, and so that sells much more than just a writing like a post kind of thing. So video is definitely the future. And
I like what you just said then. I think that's really important too because it does show authenticity behind something rather than just, you know, a face behind with a faceless person behind an audio or a wall. I just feel that it's people want to connect with people, and more so, you know, since COVID, I do think that's where all of the podcasting went up because everyone ran out of Netflix shows because they watched them all in the first week of the lockdown. So they wanted something more. So what else? You know, doing some form of exercise and listening to a podcast that gave them some kind of sustenance.
Yeah, and I think COVID was definitely a big facilitator of many good things as well in the world, and one being people getting in touch with their passion and you know whatever that was for you. But without saying it, I don't want to say I enjoyed COVID. I enjoyed what was slightly forced upon people to be able to reconnect with family, even though you couldn't extend and go extended family. I think it was very hard for people that didn't have family and that were living alone. I think that would have been so difficult for them and feel very disconnected. But for families to be able to just spend time in their house to a weird way, I think it was kind of a bit of an eye-opener for a lot of people to think, you know, we take a lot of stuff for granted. Oh, absolutely. And I remember even just connecting with school friends from way back when we formed group chats and we were talking on videos, and you could only have like 4 and 5 people in your home at one point. So there were more intimate group settings, and yet there was also the people that were living alone, which there were so mental health issues also went up in that time. But anyway, let's not talk about COVID.
No.
Back to you. So thank you for sharing that about what you do. And let's just, from a perspective of what the podcast is about, tell us, Luke, from say 0 to 15, your early years.
Yep. Remember them very well. Very fond
you do?
of. Yeah,
okay, good.
I had a great childhood.
Any story from that time when you felt either connected or disconnected?
I grew up I was born in 81, so very much I consider that I'm a 90s baby because I did spend a lot of my teen years.
So is that X, Y, Z, which
who
generation?
knows? I don't everybody know. I don't even keep track of it.
Go.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a totally different time to what we live in now. And for me, it was skateboarding, rollerblading, playing roller hockey. Just, it was so much outdoors and so connective about like friends. Like we played roller hockey in the street every afternoon. It was never inside. What we had, that was when like game consoles came out and we got our first computer, and I fell in love with computers from that point. But I still didn't want to be inside. It was always outside. But yeah, so very connected in terms of street kids hanging out in the street, playing. I don't mean street kids, but playing in the street was such a big part of life, and I loved it. But there was no real, the only disconnection I felt at that point, I loved my brothers to bits. Like I have a sister as well, and I love my sister to bits.
How many siblings?
I have two older brothers and an older sister.
You're the youngest.
I am the youngest. Okay. Yeah. And my sister, from the most part, I remember she just worked all the time. She was at school and worked, so I didn't see Louise a lot. But Louise was kind of like a second mum to me, and I love it a bit.
Big difference, age difference?
Between me, she's 9 years, yeah.
Oh, 9 years between you and your sister. Okay.
Yeah. And then my brother down from that is Cameron. And Cameron was the same, very similar, 2 years younger than Louise, I think. Sorry, correct me on that, can't remember. But he had his own life, doing his own thing. You know, he's doing an apprenticeship when I was in those years of teens that are really quite vivid in terms of my memory. He was off doing stuff. But the only brother I did have probably more to do with was Murray, and he's 5 years older than me.
What's his name again?
Murray.
Murray,
yeah. But then Murray left for the army at like 17. So, you know, there was still that window when I was 12, he was pretty much gone. So I did feel very much like an only child, which was probably a weird thing to say, but they were all older and off doing things, and they never really included me. But Murray would take me and hang out with his mates and do questionable things that we should do. It's like what older teenagers are doing. But just I looked up to them in so much as, you know, the greatest period of my life, even when I look back now.
Yeah, it's funny that you're saying that because that kind of brings up a story from my life with I've got two older children, Alicia and Daniel, and then the youngest is Damien. There's a 9-year gap between Daniel and Damien. And Damien used to always be the one left out of the conversations because he was so little. He would just be sitting and he'd be quiet and not really included quite often, and not deliberately, but just because of the age gap kind of thing. And recently we had a Christmas gathering, and I kind of asked them questions. We just throw a question in and we all answer it. And the question was, what do you love about your siblings? And Alicia and Daniel said what they said. And then Damien said, the youngest, he said, what I love about my siblings is because they're so much older than me, I get to learn so much from them. And I thought that was great.
That is good.
To even have that insight, because they were much older. And as you said, you know, they were older from you and you could learn.
There was. I think that's really important.
So even though there's disconnect, there's also a gift there.
There was, definitely. And I do feel that I feel like I was a lot more mature for my age due to that.
Exactly.
Whereas, you know, I knew kids that had siblings really close to them in age, and they were really quite immature and didn't have that mindset. I mean, I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial mind as well, even from a young age, but and was always inventing things and pulling things apart, being inquisitive. So I do feel like that maybe that aided in me being that way, because I saw my brothers being at that level.
You had little like mini role models apart from your mum and dad.
My middle brother probably not the best role model, but it was a naughty boy.
And how was your relationship with your mum and dad as a young teenager?
Great.
Fabulous.
I have the fondest memories with both of them, that always being dad's little like sidekick, going out to, you know, even if we just went to the hardware store and in his little old ute that was clackety, that smelled like cigarettes, and would listen to John Fogerty or whatever it was. It was just, you know, Creedence Clearwater Revival. It was great. And mum, the softer side of my self now. You know, she owned a craft shop and taught me to sew, and so I did have a very mix of, you know, masculinity from my dad and very feminine from my mum, and I'm so gracious for that, because I don't think a lot of people, particularly in these days, don't have it. It's like, you know, the dad's I was always away working, which dad was. He worked shift work. He was an ambulance officer at that particular time.
A what officer?
An ambulance officer.
Ambulance, yes.
Yeah, so he was in the ambulance. Prior to that, he fought in Vietnam as a medic. So still, you know, very regimented in terms of yours. I pretty much was brought up in an army household, you know, elbows off the table and so forth. But you'd get a clip on the elbow with a fork if you had them on there, it was good. It was a strict house, but it was fun.
Good boundaries.
Oh yeah, great boundaries.
Yeah. That's
we got a belting
important.
if we were naughty. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, those were the
good.
days of the belting times.
And don't swear, because you'll end up with the imperial leather in your mouth as well.
Exactly. I think your generation, so I'm one behind you, I think that your generation would have been probably the last one where, and I'm just guessing, where kids were out on the streets playing stuff and connecting with each other. The next one, which is my children, they still played, but there was computers and digital stuff was already out by then. So they were more on their PSPs and what are those called? Xboxes and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, those definitely, we had amazing. My childhood was magic.
It was great
as well. Climbing trees. And we played games like Jack the Monkey up the tree and.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds fun.
We used to have tops. You know, those things, but we used to like a little wooden thing, and we would.
The spinning tops. Yeah.
We'd have a long thread, and we would tie it round and round, and then go like that and spin the top, and we'd have marbles and all this sort of outdoor games. So definitely lots of benefits.
I think so.
Of doing that,
and Carolyn and I have instilled that in our kids. It's very much outside play.
And y'all do that on a regular basis with your kids?
Yeah, we just put them outside and lock the door.
Yeah, I think just banning the TV for weekends or something, a simple rule like that. And
we guilty the TV on night time. Like most nights we sit down and all watch a movie together. Yeah. Most nights. Because as much as it's probably a little bit mindless, like it's still everyone in the room being a family, and I think it's good.
What do y'all kind of watch? What kind of TV
we
shows?
drag out. What did we watch last night? Can't remember what the bloody thing was now. Big Mama's House. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't.
They're just like 80s and 90s movies for the most part. And we rewatch all the old ones. Not so much new ones, but generally like Freya, who's 6, she loves Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah.
Do you tell me a 6-year-old that likes watching Happy Gilmore? It's pretty funny.
I know. That's he's a good actor. Most of his movies are amazing.
And she's like that. She loves everything funny. So.
So it sounds like your childhood was pretty much magical, with
it had
lots of connection, outdoor
downs.
Playing, and so you did a lot of skating. You said you're a skateboarder.
Skating, as in skateboard, and rollerblading. A lot of rollerblading, probably more rollerblading than skateboarding.
Where did you grow up, Luke? In which part of Australia?
In Nerang on the Gold Coast, just in between Mount Nathan. So it's kind of like in the hinterland area. I spent the most part, and then I moved out west. Dad got a transfer with his role in the ambulance as the area coordinator for Southeast Queensland, which was in Roma. Right. Which is in the middle of
nowhere.
Bloody nowhere. And I cried moving there.
Yes. How old were you?
I think I was 17. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's a critical age to leave, to be uprooted from all your teenage friends.
Yeah, I left school in year 10 and I did a pre-vocational engineering in electrical and electronics. So I was going to be an electrician. So I effectively did 2 years of my apprenticeship in that. I did. I left that to move out there, which was just fine, another adventure. And I didn't really have a problem with it, but I was sad to leave all my friends. I already left them finishing school and, I didn't, you're really only making new friends, and being that odd age where you're not 18, so you can't meet new people out, but you're still trying to connect with your friends that are at school. So it was a really weird time because I didn't have my brothers because Murray was off with the army, Cameron was off doing whatever he's doing, Louise was busy doing what she's doing. So there was that gap where I felt like when I left school, it was just work, and I didn't really have any mates other than one in the street that I used to hang out with.
How was that for you?
When I think about it, hasn't really I don't think it's shaped me in any way, but it's made me, I think, learn to be a little bit more self-sufficient with the way I occupy my time and to find things to busy myself. I've never had a moment where I've got nothing to do, being that I have ADHD, and I was the one that was never diagnosed at school because that was if you were bouncing off walls, but I wasn't. I was daydreaming about what I'm going to build on the weekend, or am I going to build a half pipe in the backyard or build a tree house, or what am I going to do? So it was more, I just always found things to do. So I was never bored.
Yeah. And you become more resilient as well.
Yeah.
And you can be more resourceful about filling your time and entertaining yourself, so to speak. So then around 17, you said your dad moved to Roma.
Yeah. I'm sure it was about 17.
Did your older siblings move as well, or were they settled over here in Brisbane?
Actually, I might have been 16. I might have been 16, sorry, because I do think I turned 18 out there and we were there for 18 months. So I might have just been halfway through 16.
And so what did you do in Roma? At 16? So you left school at 15?
Yeah, it was probably about...
Grade 10?
Yeah, roughly.
And so what did you get up to in Roma?
I just got a job.
Okay.
Yeah, and anything. I think the first job I had, looked at what was out there, and I got a job in Tandy. Do you remember Tandy's?
No.
So it was an electronics store.
Oh, yes, of course.
It was like Dick Smith.
Yeah.
But cooler, I think. And he had an air conditioning for cars business next door. So it was like an automotive thing where he did regassing of air conditioning. Nice guy, very, very weird. It was kind of my first interaction with someone from a very different community to growing up on the Gold Coast, surfing most weekends and, just being a coastal kid to moving in the middle of nowhere. It was like, this was a complete culture shock, and I had no idea what to expect. The first day that I was there, I went skating through the streets, which we got there on a Sunday, and I went for a skate, and there was like no one. The town was dead. And I remember thinking, is this like what it's like all the time? There's no one living. It was a ghost town.
Wow.
6,000 people in population, but I was skating down the street, absolutely no one. And then I heard police sirens and pulled me over.
Why? Because you were skating on the road randomly?
No, I was on a footpath.
So then?
You can't skate on footpaths.
Okay.
And I didn't know this. It's like, wasn't privy to this rule.
And you were easily spottable because there was nobody else around.
The dickhead just did himself a number because my dad was the boss of the ambulance.
Oh, jeez.
And he was the young constable and revved it up me for something. I just went home and told Dad, and he got his ass handed to him the next day. She's like, you've just upset the new Ambo's, the boss Ambo's kid, and you shouldn't have done that.
Oh, no.
It was like, but I was doing nothing wrong. And it was an apology about it, but yeah.
Yeah, and so your friends, so when you moved to Roma and you left your friends behind here in Brisbane, did you stay in touch with, did you all have phones at that time?
One friend I did who I've known since I was 2 and I still friends with. But no, there was, I did get I got my first mobile phone in Roma actually, and it was on a CDMA network, so it was a weird thing. But he was the only one I really kept in touch with, Jackson. And then when he finished school, he went and worked on a station for a little bit, which was in Charleville, not far from us. So he came out to ride my dirt bike when I was out there, and this is typical Jackson. He cannot ride a motorbike. He's the most uncoordinated person you'll ever meet, but thinks that he can send it on everything. Immediately went to jump, went over the bars, and the clutch lever stabbed him in the side of his hip, and he's still got the scar there to this day. But that was really the only person I saw when I was out there. And it was just making friends with people there, and which is very hard because they're very cliquey in small communities.
And especially at that age as well. It's like 14 to 17, I think, very formative years, more so for boys as well.
I think so.
Because,
But I didn't have a problem with it. Once coming back to the way I've been brought up and how to communicate with people, I felt like I could do that and I wasn't worried by it. But, going through jobs and, I quit that job and then I started doing a motorcycle mechanic apprenticeship, which I got.
While you were there?
Yeah, while I was in Roma. And that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I got a year into it and I'd had enough of the town. I just said to Mum and Dad, I want to leave. I'm 18. I want to go back to the coast. So they were cool. I think they were pretty upset by it because, we'd go home for lunch every day, and I'd ride my motorbike home for lunch on lunch breaks, and Dad would come home, Mum would cook soup and fresh bread every day, and it was great. Like I felt
you had the good family.
I did, and I felt like when I think about it now, I feel really bad for Mum too, because she was out there, and I think I was the only thing that like gave her that little bit of sanity, because Dad was busy with work and she didn't have anyone else. Yeah.
And so you left Roma at the age of 18. Mum and Dad were still there, and you came to Brisbane.
Yeah.
Back to
Salford. No, I moved in with my brother Murray.
Here in Brisbane?
Yeah, and Joe will probably listen to this, but Joe cracked the shits about me arguing, being an angsty 18-year-old, and said I didn't leave the light on, and I still didn't leave the light on.
Joe is your brother?
Joe is my brother's partner.
Uh-huh.
So I had an argument, being a little turd that I was, apparently. I said, no, I didn't do this, and blah, 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 and then she said, you have to go. And so anyway, it was
so you came back and stayed with your brother and Joe, Murray and Joe.
Yeah.
And that was down at the coast. And
No, that was in Brisbane, sorry. That was in Brisbane, in the Gap. And then I went to stay with Cameron, my middle brother, and his partner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep.
So you were kind of...
Equally dysfunctional, but still an experience none the same. Yeah.
And so give us the next chapter of your life. So 18 to...
Yes, moved
25.
To Brisbane, then back to the Gold Coast, and then after all that, moved in with Louise, my sister. So then I came back to Brisbane. I left the coast.
So any time in that time where you felt connected or disconnected?
No, I felt free. I felt like I was just living my life, and didn't think that I'd be able to effectively kind of do my own thing. And I don't know, you're 18, you just feel like you're 6 foot tall and bulletproof. You can do whatever you want, and it was good. I was just doing whatever I wanted. It was great.
So I guess you've had that really good grounding as a young person. You've got these older siblings. You've been out in community with your kids. So you've really got that good solid base, Luke, which is so important,
Yeah.
I always think if you have a great childhood, doesn't matter what life throws you, you can deal with it. You actually become bulletproof in a way, but not 100%. But you have the ability to deal with whatever comes, kind of thing.
Yeah, I do. I thank both Mum and Dad for that.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, like I had the mix of both of it, like that masculinity and that feminine side that really taught me how to deal with it. But each side of it, you still have your own personality traits that, you have trouble dealing with things. But I guess I had that foundation that did help me make sure that things worked out.
What do you have trouble dealing with?
Well, just, when not knowing, now the whole ADHD side of things, which I was not ever diagnosed. So you still have those problems with like, oh, why do I not want to stay with a job? And, why do I want to jump to another job? And, multiple jobs and constantly getting bored of them. The only side of, I guess, employment that I enjoyed was the sociable side. That was, I generally hated most jobs. It was just the friends that I make in the jobs was what made me excited about going to work.
So how is it different? You said you get bored of working in a job, and then you move to another job. But now you've got your own business. It's the same thing you're doing. How is that? What's the point of difference that makes you stay? You got nobody can boss you around.
No, I don't. I've been in creative industries as well, and that's probably the worst industry for me to be working, because we have like this rejection dysmorphia. So when we do something that we're super proud of, particularly from a creative standpoint, and we're shut down by someone who thinks that they're better, it's very hard for us to take that on, particularly when we know that, what we've done has been really great. So from that standpoint, that was really hard when I got into creative industries and working for like web agencies. You have these arrogant people that just want to constantly keep you below them, even though you know very well that if the client saw that design, they would have thought this is great. So I guess that was where it became quite relevant to me that I'm not suited in this role, because it's not that I can do it better. I just feel like that I can contribute as equal as what you do to the industry. So that's where I kind of had a bit of a change in direction to thinking that. And then I can forge my own path. I can do web if I want. I can do design if I want. I can do video if I want. And I can really create something that I think is going to help people, but then also work with so many great people like yourself and create something that's, helping them. So I do feel like there's a real like emotional side to it as well, where I actually enjoy getting to work with people directly. And I partially think that's why we have never like scaled so much, because I like the level of I get to work with my clients. We have editors and so forth, but it's still so nice to be able to be there in amongst it all.
Yeah, I totally
One day
get
I might
that.
get sick of that.
Well, the bigger you go, the more people you have to employ, and the more people you have to employ, the less contact you have with you're sitting over here, and you can get quite isolated from the customer, because you've got those other people in between there that are now you've got 5 more salesperson or 5 more people doing stuff, and so you get kind of disconnected. But and also then you've got to make sure your training is really good, otherwise the quality of your work will go down. So unless everybody's there's a lot that goes into expanding. It's not as easy as, if I expand, I'll make a lot of money. Will your quality be as good?
Yeah, I've fallen victim to that so many times in the 14 years of doing it, that if not managed correctly, which is something that is a big frightening side of business to me, that I'll let clients down. And it has happened where past employees have just made an absolute blotch of something, and it's just to the point of nearly losing clients because I didn't have that level of control, or quality control I should say, to make sure that because I relied too heavily on someone to think that they would do something of the same level of not so much quality but more so care about the clients. And I think that's always been a tough one for me. It's not letting go of the control, by all means. I do understand that you do need to let go of certain things like that. But
I think you value the quality of the output much more.
Wholeheartedly, for sure.
Yeah. And I've experienced that, so I can vouch for that, being a customer of yours. And I'm very grateful as well, because I do. Yeah, I enjoy working with both you and Caitlin.
Thanks.
Even though I'm a bit of a pest sometimes.
No, you're not a pest. We've had pest clients, Carolyn. You are nowhere near a pest.
Okay. Thank you for that, because I used to ring you almost 3 times or 4 times a day when we first started. Now it's much less, but I was just trying to understand.
I've fired clients for being horribly pesty.
Yeah.
Because you just can't help them, As much as you can suggest and bend and flex to try and do things that's going to make them happy, some people just don't want to be helped at all. And they think they do, and they come to the party and they want to do this and they want to do that and they want to pivot and change their mind every second. But some people just can't, until they come to that realization that I might need to let go of a little bit of it and then entrust the process. But
we're
everyone's
employing
journey.
Professionals. Let the professionals do what they know best.
Yeah,
kind of thing. What's been your most challenging time in your life?
There's been lots of things, but I think, I don't know. Maybe, even when, like, before meeting Caitlin, when, being a single dad, that was probably one of my most challenging things. But then it wasn't at the same time, because I had so much support. Like, mum and dad really were amazing when Hamish was 2 at that time, until I met Kate. I lived with them.
How long were you a single dad? Sorry?
2.5 years, nearly 3.
And how old were you, Luke?
21.
Wow, that's commendable.
And I had him full time. But
that is commendable.
Well, what else was I going to do? He was my baby, and I had to be there for him. It's like, I can't imagine anyone that would desert their child. Under circumstances do change. I understand that, but if I went to the movies, he came with me.
Wow.
It was very
21.
rare that mum and dad looked after him outside of that. For work and that, dad would walk him to school when I was working, because I don't think he was working there. I think he was like partially retired. But it was a very interesting time. But I look back on it now and I think, I may have thought this is bloody hard, but the support I had was just incredible from
Look,
both mum and
again,
dad.
just to make the decision to be a single dad at the age of 21 it's a pretty big deal and really commendable, I think. And yes, you had the support of your mum and dad, but still, at 21, that's yeah. And I haven't met Hamish.
Hamish,
I haven't
yeah.
met Hamish, but I've met your other 3 children, and they're just gorgeous, all 3 of them.
He's the same. He's just bigger.
Liam.
He's a tall kid.
Let me remember: Liam, Ruby, and Freya.
Yeah.
I'm getting better.
Liam is taller than Hamish.
Is he?
Yes, Liam is taller than me.
Do your 3 get along with Hamish? What's the
they
age
love
difference
Hamish.
there?
They love him. Well, he's 22, and then Liam's 14, and then Ruby's 12.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So he's like a big brother.
Yeah, he is.
He's the in between
Yeah.
Luke and yes. But I mean, you're a great dad from what I've seen. But just to have that bigger brother kind of thing there is, yeah. And so where's he now? He's
in Gympie, and he's about to move to Mount Gambier with his partner. Yeah, so she's a pharmacist, and she's got a role back in her hometown, and they're moving to Mount Gambier, which
where's
is on
Mount Gambier?
it's like South Australia,
Right.
Victoria border somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in South Australia.
When I asked you what was the most challenging time in your life,
Yeah,
and you kind of alluded to being a single dad, but yet it was and it wasn't.
It wasn't. I was very blessed. I think there's a lot of single mums and dads out there that I commend to it. My niece is a single mum, and she's incredible for what she does for her child. I don't know how she does it. She rents on her own. I don't know if she has a flatmate. I'm pretty sure it's just her and her child, and she works a couple of jobs.
And then when did you meet Caitlin?
When Hamish was like nearly 5, so
Okay.
Hamish was born in 2002, so 2007.
So you were a single dad for 5 years, something like
3.
that. 3.
Yeah.
So you met Caitlin when Hamish was 3.
No, when he was 5, just nearly 5. So I became a single dad when he was 2, and then I met her when she was 5. When he was 5.
Got it.
Yeah.
You were still with your old ex-partner
Up until 2.
till he was 2. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Well, and then you had, if I remember clearly, you had a bit of in your career-wise. Was there a time? There was a time when there was a little bit of a hiccup there at some point, but which propelled you into going on your own. You were working with somebody. You don't have to take names or anything, but you were working with somebody.
So I was
and you got a bit,
working with a company, and
you don't have to take any names or anything.
It's
yeah.
fine. I don't need to. That they, I was working for a company. They were charging an exuberant amount of money to create websites that they were just buying themes for, which would be like $60, $70, but they were selling for like 60 to 70,000, and it did not sit right with me. And fair enough, that would be a great way to grow a business, and they were a very big company, but I just don't feel that was the right thing to do, and that wasn't what propelled me though to do it. I actually admired that. I thought, oh wow, this is what you do in business, but that's not what propelled me. What propelled me was I want to provide for my family. I can't make any more than a ceiling of probably 40K in this job, max here. So I'm just, Caitlin had Liam, and I didn't want her to feel like that she had to go back to work. I wanted to have the opportunity so that I could, it's almost like I could do it properly and make sure that there was that freedom there for Caitlin to enjoy the experience of being a mum and being at home with the kids, and just not having to have that stress. So I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I just figured, what the hell, I'll just start my own business. And Kate, when I came home and told her I'm quitting my job, right when I had that paternity leave, she was like, what do you mean you're quitting your job? We've just had a baby. But just me being me.
Yeah, but that's again another really courageous decision to make, because you're a young dad how old was Liam? He was just born. Yeah, and to give up your job
Days
and to
old.
start a new, yes.
Yeah, when I look back now, it's like, but then now it's like, whatever. It's just is what it is.
Yeah,
it's
so you kind of jump in.
I have to.
Yeah.
If I don't jump all in, it will never happen. But sometimes my projects don't get finished, being that my hobbies, I'm very much the hobby guy. And I do that because, well, I found that's because I have ADHD. But I like having half-finished hobbies at home because if I get bored with one, I'll come back to that one. I'm going to go on with this one for a while because I know I'll get bored with it. So I'll jump over to this one and I'll do that for a while and then like, I might go back to that one.
So you've taken your ADHD and made it work for you.
It's great.
That's amazing.
I am unmedicated and I don't think I would ever want to be medicated because as much as it has its frustrations and its limitations with things, I know how to deal with it and I know where my strengths are. And, I've even had clients that, we do a proposal for and I've said to Kate, I can't take this job on. This will bore the hell out of me and I will not give them what they deserve.
Wow.
Because I've learned that though. I never used to. I used to take on everything and then struggle. But now it's like, no, I don't think I can do that. So
what job would you not take on?
Something I'm not interested in.
Okay.
It would be if I can, I'm very good at envisioning things and I can vision myself in a situation and I think that's part of what this is and why I have it. But I can envision myself there in the moment and think, no, I'm not going to enjoy that. And it gives me a feeling that I don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you have good clarity of what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah, I think I have pretty good intuition about moments and people and time and not time in terms of being on time sometimes, which Caitlin can testament to that. But I have a bit of a rule. If we have family functions on the weekend, Caitlin loves being on time, but I hate being on time.
Why?
Did you know that's an entrepreneurial thing? Apparently, it is very important, and they apparently are very...
To not be on time.
To not be on time, unless it's important, like your podcast. That's important. Being to work for things like this is very important to be on time for me. I don't like being late for. But family functions and events, I don't categorize that as being important in time.
And yet you're saying you don't categorize it as being important, but evidently it is because you've got a great family and your kids are very well brought up and they seem just gorgeous from what I know of. So they are important. So
no, not important in that, but I don't mind being, I shouldn't rush for something like that could potentially, lead to some implication. For instance, you're rushing and you shouldn't be on time and you have an accident. I kind of just feel like things should just flow as they flow. If I leave the house and forget my sunglasses and get a feeling I need to go back and get them, I should go back and get them, whether that's my inner voice telling me I've forgotten them for a reason to avoid something. I feel like these things happen for a reason.
So kind of your family and close friends will forgive you for being a little late, but your clients won't.
No, that's right. Yes, I'll leave my sonnies at home for you, Caroline.
You're funny, Luke.
It's just,
but it's working, so that's the most.
Yeah,
I think the most important thing.
I don't like being late. I do not like being late. But there are certain things that I feel don't really need to be on a time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It does in my head anyway.
Well, my father was in the army, so he was an absolute stickler for time. And he would say to us, if we're leaving at 7:30, everybody be ready by 7:15 kind of thing. And we just had to be ready by 7:15 so that we could all take off at 7:30. So I kind of grew up in that very army-style discipline way of being, and so till today, if I'm going to be late, 10 minutes late, I'll say I'm going to be 10 minutes late, but I'll try not to be late as much as possible. I just grew up in that way, I suppose, and I think
we did too.
Yeah.
So I
think there's a lot of merit to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
there is merit to it, but I also feel that I think people should just sometimes let things happen the way they happen and maybe slow down a little bit. Because there is a lot of people that put so much pressure on themselves. And
I'm one of those.
Yeah, but you shouldn't, because you have one life and I don't know, things just need to play out the way they play out. And you can't control everything as much as you can control it. But what's that going to do? I understand doctor's appointments and things like that. They have a schedule and there's other people that are impacted by you being late. If it's going to affect someone else, fine on that level, and I'm in agreement of that. But if it's not going to affect anyone by you being 5, 10, 15 minutes late, don't put pressure on yourself to do that, because then you could impact someone else's life by having an accident.
Yes. Now I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Because
So it kind of has a reverse effect on it.
with yeah. So if it doesn't impact somebody else's life, then you don't get yourself in a bind to try and get there exactly at 7:00 or whatever.
But isn't that funny though when you think about it? If
Yes.
you rush to be on time, you can affect someone else's life.
Yes.
If you don't rush, you can still affect someone else's life.
That's
Let it be.
that's life. There's
That's
always
life.
there's always some
Yeah.
you know. So tell me about you and Caitlin working together. I remember when I worked together with my ex-husband, 22 years, 24 hours a day. It didn't work. But you two seem to really make it work from what I've seen.
In business perspective, it's, I don't know. Like Caitlin and I have something that is incredibly close, and I don't know how you can put it. Like Caitlin, I believe on so many levels is my soulmate, and we have been through ups and downs as any relationship would, but we always come out hugging each other and best friends. And I do think that she is an incredible woman to be able to put up with someone like me who jumps from one thing to another constantly. But we've just, I mean, the start was difficult from a business perspective when Caitlin came into the business because, having the kids, she never did come into the business. So it was very much myself and, other contractors and so forth. But it was only until when, Freya was of age and at school, and it was more so coming along and helping more and being more involved because she's a graphic designer and that's her industry. So from that perspective, yes, it's been a big learning curve once you start sort of integrating into the business, and we kind of learnt where each other's strengths are, as you do.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 years doing it, if you hadn't figured that out in 14 years, you probably shouldn't be doing this together.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've spoken to you at like 7 and 8 o'clock at night on work times. And I remember working 12 hours a day in our business. And if I had to have my time all over again in terms of working together with my ex-husband, I think that balance of work time and family time would have made all the difference. Not that I want to go backwards, but I think having that discipline to separate work from business makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah.
But
for work from home life,
work
you
from
mean?
home life. Sorry, yeah. And in saying that, when you're starting out a business and in the earlier years of business, you have to put in the time. And it's just, they say an aeroplane uses 70% of its fuel in takeoff. Once it's in the air, it's just cruising. So that start off of a business, the first 10, 12 years of your business, it's all in. You know?
I do. I feel that. Yeah, that's funny you say that. And I agree. Like it is in the last probably 5 years post-COVID. It's very much team play between us. There's no push and pull who's doing what. It's very team orientated.
And it's quite a natural thing that happens. It's not you don't sit and plan it or anything.
No.
It's
just
fabulous.
I don't know, Caitlin and I kind of just
You're a
work
dream
together.
team.
Oh.
No, that's amazing.
I think we're a healthy mix of dysfunction and function. And I think every relationship should be like that. You can never get two people that will never not disagree on something. And
I agree on that, but there has to be some kind of dysfunction there as well, and there will be conflict in a relationship
and that's
as
healthy.
well. And correct, absolutely.
And I think the most important part for any child in a relationship like that is to see that, if there is those conversations, that there's also, coming together and resolution. Because
and the process of resolution is healthy as well.
Yeah.
That's a big one. It's not,
that it's okay.
flare-up kind of thing. Yeah.
Which is good. And I do think that's why our kids are so well adjusted, because we are so open with everything to them, and we communicate with them, and we teach them the right way of communicating with people. For Liam, for instance, and Hamish, when you shake a man's hand, look them in the eye.
Wow. You teach them that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Every day I ask them, how you going? What's happening at school? Like anything you want to talk about, stuff happening that you're not dealing with. Like it's important to know that they have an open communication if there ever is something wrong, that you are there and just a listening ear. And if they want you to help, that you will help.
And especially boys, I think if you don't actually actively ask them those questions,
talk to you.
open-ended questions, they won't open up. Yeah. I remember when I used to pick up Damien from school, I wouldn't say, how was your day? Because I would get a good,
Yeah.
thanks, Mum. So I would ask him, what happened today? And he had to tell me what happened. So
They don't, hey?
yeah,
They won't
yeah,
talk.
yeah. It was
Liam's
a
like
challenge.
that.
Yeah,
Liam's very difficult to get any conversation out of at the best of times.
he's such a sweet kid.
He is a sweet kid,
Yeah.
and he'll do anything in terms of work. He's got the best work ethic. You know, mow the yard, whippersnip, and we've got an acre, so there's work cut out for him. But all of them have good work ethic. Freya's,
He's got
Freya's a little bit
they've got a
questionable,
mum
but
and
she's
dad
6.
to role model from. So that's,
Well,
I think.
Freya painted some of these walls too.
Oh, did she?
She's 6, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we all got in here. You know, it's
Yes, and
family
that's the other good
orientated.
thing. I'm going to end on that you'll have it's like a family effort kind of thing. Even when I had my opening of the launch of my podcast, all the kids were over here and they were kind of helping out with,
Yeah,
setting up, and
Yep.
it was so lovely to watch. So,
and they all know what they're doing
yeah,
because
yeah.
I make sure that we explain to them. Liam knows how to film. Liam's very good at
And
filming.
he came with us on that saleability
Oh yeah, yeah.
thing as well. Yeah,
He's very good at filming. He's very good at lighting, and he's got his own TikTok channel where he does stuff for like tech, and he's been given sponsorships by brands now and to do videos for them. And he's 14, so good.
Last question, which we're going to end on. If you had to give our audience one piece of advice on life, what would that be?
You're probably not the only one going through something. So do something nice for other people, even if it means going and paying for someone's fuel and then leaving. Because you will make someone's day so much brighter, even if it's only $25.
Or $5?
$5. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Luke. It's been an amazing conversation and getting to
you.
know you a little bit more than our usual banter.
That was very surface level, but you are very welcome. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Luke.